Well, we first noticed that we had some issues with Daniel between the age of 18 months and 2 years old. When he was born, great, no complications with the birth, everything looked fine, Diane was fine. The health visitors came, no indication there was anything wrong, up to the age of 18 months. Then between 18 months and 2 years old, he simply regressed. And he was saying the odd word at 18 months, but by the time he got to 2 years, he was saying absolutely nothing. And he was just sitting there, you know. So I think when we first indicated, you know, we kind of came to do something was Diane took him to a nursery, and he clawed one of the the leader's faces there, and Di went to pick him up, and there was all sorts of questions like, is he deaf, he's not taking any notice of anybody, and this girl had scratches all over her face, so you were a bit reluctant to take him back there, weren't you? Yeah, after that. And then we went to see the doctors, and they got involved and started to do tests on him. They tested his hearing first and found out that was perfectly okay. He was up to the hospital, they were testing for genetic disorders and Fragile X and stuff, and they tested us as well. But finally we ended up seeing a doctor who called us in and said, yeah, we think he's got learning difficulties with autistic tendencies. From that point he went on to some special nurseries. So he went to COG, which is the Children's Opportunity Group in Bolton, spent 2 days a week there, and he had 2 days a week in a special nursery in Halliwell. He was basically staying up most of the night. He never went to bed before about 11 o'clock, 11:30. And between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning, he was always coming into our room, and sometimes he didn't settle at all. He had severe tantrums. He used to actually run into walls, and we used to have to rugby tackle him to stop him. Now most people would stop, he didn't, he just clattered into the wall. And they'd get up and do it again, so you had to kind of pin him down. But as he was with COG and Halliwell, he did actually get better, you know. There's a lot of people got involved. Well, if we fast forward to the age of about 3.5, he was saying about, I'd say 100 words. One peculiar thing that happened was I had him in a trolley at 3, he's pretty big, and Diane's with my daughter in shopping, and we're outside. And he looked up one day and just said S-A-L-E, and this is from a lad who doesn't talk, you know. So I went back and bought some cards with numbers and letters on, and he knew most of the numbers and the letters. And then we remembered that he actually sits and watched Countdown on the telly, and we thought that what he did was he picked all this up just by watching Countdown. His motor skills were fantastic. He couldn't catch a ball, but there was nothing wrong with him. He could climb, he could jump, he could run. The problems were basically in terms of communication. From there was a lot of discussion as to whether he should go to mainstream or whether he should go to a special school. And we, looking back, were very fortunate in that they'd just built the Ladywood School. And Daniel was into the first class at Ladywood, and he got intense education. It was almost one-on-one, not quite one-on-one, but almost one-on-one. And from there, he really did start to develop. I mean, by the time he didn't really come out of nappies until 5, 6. But that was peculiar as well, because he just said no more diapers, because he used to watch Rugrats on the telly, which is an American show, and he didn't wet himself after that. It was almost like a step change. He was wetting himself, and then he just didn't, you know. I say that was just a step change, but you had to do a lot of work, didn't you, with him before that, with the nurses?
Oh yeah, 12 months.
How you used to keep graphs and things, didn't you?
Yeah. When he went to the toilet.
Yeah, so
it was pretty...
It was a case of noting down when he ate, noting down when he went to the toilet. And you'd check the times between the two, and then you'd take him to the toilet about 15 minutes before he normally soiled himself or wet himself. Didn't always work.
No.
Sometimes you'd put him on the toilet, he'd do nothing. You'd put him in a nappy and he'd soil himself, wet himself straight away in his nappy. But it took a while. But when he did get to the point of saying that, which was probably about 5 or 6, then he didn't do it again. And he's never weighed himself since.
No.
It just stopped. So we didn't have a full diagnosis of autism at that point in time, because we went to a talk with one doctor, a few people there with children with similar issues, and the doctor basically said, you don't know a man's going bald until he's about 40. So we thought we'd leave it until he developed a bit, and the idea being that as he develops, it's better to give him a diagnosis. So he ends up with CAMS in 2006, so he's 10 years old now, and it was basically conclusive. He went for a test, we were in another room, he's being filmed, and following that we got a letter basically saying he's well within the autistic spectrum, it's conclusive, and that was it, goodbye, thank you very much, you've got your diagnosis, but he's at a special school, and we determined that the only way through this was through education. One thing that we determined to do was to have him in the room with us. So we never put him upstairs, we never put him outside the room. We put a desk, which is like a big flat table, in the front room, and we did everything with him, with us. There was a lot of intensive work with him. We never believed in the methods that have been used in the States, where they kind of force the kids to do it time and time and time again, because we thought there was basically no love in that. So, but we spent intensive time with him, and he progressed very well. And he actually came out of the autistic unit and went into a generic class at Ladywood. We fast forward to him transition from primary to secondary, and you have to fill all these forms in, and on the forms you have to put 3 schools down. Now we only had to, we only wanted him to go to Runworth because we knew at this stage what it was like, but we had to put all the school names down. So we had no choice but to do that, but he did end up going to Runworth. In Runworth he ended up in a firstly autistic unit, although we wanted him to go into a generic class straight away, but they wanted to assess him first. So they assessed him, and after about a year put him into generic classes. He's progressing very well at this stage, to such an extent that they had I knew that his memory was phenomenal. It was just one of these talents that he had. He seemed to remember so many things. In some cases it was peculiar, because we'd say, oh, when did such an event happen? And he'd say something like, oh, that was on the 5th of August 2 years ago. And we'd look back and he was right, it was on the 5th of August 2 years ago. And simple things like this, which was just Daniel. But his memory was fantastic. So they did a performance called Runworth's Got Talent. And he decided he wanted to learn the Agincourt speech of Henry V. We band of men, we happy few. It's about 3 pages long, and he was word perfect in about 2.5 days. And he was watching, I said, how did you do that? And he used to watch YouTube. He devoured the internet for information. And he was watching Brenner and Laurence Olivier. And I said, what did you think of that? He says, well, Laurence Olivier is more articulate, but Brenner puts more feeling into it, which was quite astute from a little lad, really. And he loved history, so he did some GCSEs, he did lots of courses at Runworth, they're very, very good, at foundation stages of working up. But he ended up having GCSEs in D, in science and arts and history. He managed to get C in English language and C in English literature. But now we're up to 6th form, so we're fast forwarding pretty quick here. But we got to 6th form, and one worrying thing, we went for one of his assessments, and they basically said we can't do any more for him. There's about 3 weeks to go. We're thinking, bloody hell, we've got to find somewhere for him. As it happened, they kept him on another year, but we knew then that the time was close for him coming out. He'd got a statement from very early on, but it was close for him coming out from Runworth. So we actually went to Bolton College. We had to do this ourselves. It wasn't done through the school. All we knew is that his school time was going to come to an end, and then it's a case of this big grey area as to what's next. So, because he'd shown his talent for drama, and we'd actually taken him to some drama classes in the evenings because he'd done that, he went to have an interview at Bolton College and they let him in. So he did level 1 BTEC. So we took him for the first day and we packed up outside thinking, yeah, he'll be out in an hour, you know. He wasn't, and he ended up going through the first year and they were very, very good with him. The teachers were excellent, his tutors were excellent, the children accepted him. I think in the drama section they tend to be nice people and they all accepted him. And he ended up getting through level 1 with a merit. He moved on to level 2, which is a 1-year course, and he came out that with 2 merits. And then he goes to an extended level 3 course. And he's actually finished his level 3 course with 3 distinctions. And during his period of time, while he was at the college, we redid his maths. That took ages, hours and hours and hours. I mean, it's years since I've done quadratic equations and statistics and medians and modes and all that kind of stuff. But we had to go through it. But even though it took longer with Daniel, so you might have to spend an hour with him, where it might take somebody 10 minutes, you know, but just repetitively doing it. Which for Daniel was okay because he's obsessive. And so even though he was not picking it up very quickly, he just doggedly got there. And in the end, he went in there, he took his GCSE in maths and he got a C. So now he's got C in maths and in English language. And the college actually came to us and said, we think he can go to university. So
That's where he is.
So he applied for university and he went for an interview at Bolton University and they gave him an unconditional offer. But in the event, he comes out with 3 distinctions and he had enough UCAS points to go on his own life anyway. And he started university last week. And now we look for the future.
This is no place for ladies. But beat it!
Beat it. You're right, Betty, let's beat it!
Let's beat it too.
Don't you move a muscle! I found some little way to kidnap the princess. It is, your grossness? Well, today is your lucky day. I'm going to give you a second chance.
Can we just beat it instead?
I will personally beat you into a pulp if you let me down again.
Oh, we were going to be good. Ha! Good? Who wants to be good?
Maybe I didn't make myself clear. If you fail me again, not only will I personally beat you into a pulp, but I'll take you back to that mill of yours and have you ground up into little pieces.